We have some very interesting news coming out of Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys have decided to not renew Mike McCarthy's contract, and basically they have parted ways. After 5 years with this organization, Mike McCarthy will look for a brand new job as a head coach in this league with a team maybe like the Chicago Bears, and Jerry Jones is looking to bring in a brand new head coach yet again. I will say this about Coach Mike. I think that Coach Mike is a solid head coach in this league. He does have an outdated system, but the players played hard for him. In 5 years, he posted a record of 49-35. He had 3 playoff appearances, only 1 playoff win, and that's what did him in, the lack of playoff success. But if we're going to blame that on Coach Mike, we also have to hold Dak Prescott feet to the fire also. Dak Prescott has a 2-5 record in the NFL playoffs, and he is not the same player that he is in the regular season that he is in the playoffs. The only 2 playoff wins came against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Tom Brady, it was his last year, they had a bad offensive line, and against the Seattle Seahawks a few years before. When I look at Dak Prescott, Jerry Jones made him the highest paid player in the NFL. That was not on Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was going to always have his hands tied to a certain extent with this Cowboys roster because Jerry Jones loves control. This is not a video for me to come on here and to say that Mike McCarthy was done dirty. They gave him 5 years. They let him go out there. They let him finish out his contract. But at the same time, I can't come on here and say that Mike McCarthy is 100% to blame because of the lack of playoff success. This organization, forget just this team this year and the year before, this organization, the Dallas Cowboys, has not been to the NFC Championship game in 29 years. That's almost 3 decades. In 29 years, we've seen Wade Phillips, we've seen Jason Garrett, and now we've seen Mike McCarthy all walk in and out of the door, and you're dealing with the same problems. And the problem is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, a businessman off the field, incredible. The Dallas Cowboys are one of the most profitable teams in all the sports. Just forget the NFL. I'm talking about any sports league, baseball, football, basketball, any sports league, hockey, because he's a great businessman. But as a general manager, he hasn't done the right things to go out there and put this roster in the best situation. And when I look at it from this lens, Dalton Schultz left the Dallas Cowboys. He went to the Houston Texans. And he came out and he said something very interesting to a guy in the press conference. When he went out there and he was doing his media rounds, he said it's very different in Houston. It's not like a circus. We always had to deal with camera crews and fans when we were training and when we were working out. In Houston, we're a bit more secluded. That's not the case with the Cowboys because Jerry Jones only cares about money. He doesn't care about winning. He could come out, he could get very upset when the defense gets ran through. He can get very upset when Dak Prescott throws 2-3 interceptions in a playoff game. At the end of the day, he cares about the money and the people in the AT&T Stadium. That's it. I don't think that Jerry Jones is the same owner that he once was when he first purchased his team. He was a younger owner. He had a lot of hunger. He wanted to see this team win. But this is the same man that went out there and he fired Jimmy Johnson because he wanted to be the face of the Dallas Cowboys. When the Dallas Cowboys win, you don't hear from the head coach that much. You hear from Jerry Jones. Name another owner in this league that has that much control with their organization. You could say Mark Davis with the Las Vegas Raiders. At least he has a general manager acting on his behalf, and he lets the general manager go out there and make the picks. Jerry Jones is the owner. He's a general manager, and to a certain extent, he is the head coach. Mike McCarthy, a couple of years ago, he was being conservative on fourth down. Jerry Jones comes out. We need to be more aggressive on fourth down. What did Coach Mike do the next week? They went for it on fourth down. They were going for 2. They were being more aggressive because Jerry Jones said so. I'm not saying that he has to go out there and just be completely hands off, don't show up to the games, even though that would be great for Dallas Cowboy fans if he just completely stepped away, but he's never going to. When you have all of the talent that Jerry Jones has had with the Cowboys, with Tony Romo, Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, DeMarco Murray, Zach Martin, Ron O'Leary, Travis Frederick, unfortunately, his career had to come to an end because he was dealing with a lot of off-the-field issues with his health. But I'm happy that he is still okay on a personal level. Tyron Smith, Jason Witten, DeMarcus Ware, all of those elite names, and you couldn't bring in one NFC Championship appearance. You couldn't bring in one Super Bowl. And if that's the case, that means that every coach that you're bringing in is terrible. But who is hiring the coaches? Jerry Jones is. It's not Steven, it's Jerry Jones. Stephen Jones may be better than Jerry Jones when he decides to step down or something else happens, and I'm knocking on wood. But I look at the situation. Stephen Jones right now is a better football mind than Jerry. Many years ago, Jerry Jones wanted to draft Johnny Manziel, and Stephen Jones was pleading with him, please don't draft Johnny Manziel. Let's go with Zach Martin. And most people look at offensive linemen as boring picks in the draft. They're not boring when your quarterback has a lot of time in the pocket. And we've seen the Dallas Cowboys build great offensive lines over the last few years. Right now, their offensive line's a problem because they're young. They don't have the veteranship there anymore. Zach Martin is the only guy, and he's not the same player. And he was playing this season with injuries before he had to just stop playing in the back half of the season when the injuries were just too much for him. And I hope that Zach Martin does come back next season because he's going to go down as one of the best Dallas Cowboys offensive linemen of all time. And he's a great off-the-field guy also in the community. But I look at the Dallas Cowboys now. This is not a terrible roster, but they do need help. Jerry Jones comes out and he'll say, we're going all in. And then just a couple of weeks later, when you don't do anything in free agency, you come back out after gaslighting your fan base and you say, your definition of all in is different from mine. His definition of all in was paying CeeDee Lamb, was paying Dak Prescott. And you overpaid Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb is a true number one wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb is great. He put up good numbers with Cooper Rush. He put up amazing numbers with Dak Prescott. He's one of the best in the game. You have Rico Dowdle. He did have over 1,000 rushing yards this season, but only 2 rushing touchdowns. I said this a couple months ago when I was in favor of them keeping Mike McCarthy and why they should have ran it back with Coach McCarthy because Jerry Jones is their biggest problem. They're going to draft Ashton Jeanty in the first round. Ashton Jeanty to the Dallas Cowboys is a perfect fit. He is from the area. He's from Irving, Texas. That is just a couple minutes away from Arlington, Texas, to where the Dallas Cowboys play. And they train in Frisco. And he has come out and said multiple times that he would love to be a Dallas Cowboy. And they need a running back with this team. Even though Rico did play better on the back half of the season, he's not a true bell cow. Ashton Jeanty is a generational running back. It can help take that pressure off of Dak Prescott. Over the last few years, even with Jason Garrett, they have tried to make Dak Prescott a top-end quarterback in this league. Now, I really want to be careful here. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is a terrible quarterback. Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. You may say I'm crazy, but I believe that he's top 10. He is better than most starting quarterbacks in this league. The problem with Dak Prescott, when you want him to throw the football over 30 times in the game, that's when you get into trouble. He's been a turnover machine. Certain seasons, he'll go out there, he'll look great. The next season, he may have 15 interceptions on the year, but you have to run the football more. Bringing back Ezekiel Elliott was just a cash grab for the fans because most fans, they loved Ezekiel Elliott, and it was a nostalgia act. Nostalgia always kills in sports. Ezekiel Elliott was so great those first few years, but they ran him into the ground, and that's when Dak Prescott was at his best, when he could work off of play action, when he was in third and manageable. Not when he was in 3rd and 10 and 3rd and 15 due to bad penalties on the offensive line, due to the fact that you want him to throw the football 35 to 40 times in a game. And I will say this about Coach Mike, even though I do think that he's a solid head coach, he did Kellen Moore dirty. Now, Kellen Moore, you can make the case he wasn't a good offensive coordinator. He had some good games. He had some bad games. He was still developing as an offensive coordinator. It would be so ironic if Jerry Jones went out there and he brought him back to be the head coach with this team. Let me know in the comment section would you love to see that, because right now the Philadelphia Eagles, they just came off a playoff game against the Packers. Many Philadelphia Eagle fans are complaining about his play calling, but all year long we've seen him turn things around. Mike McCarthy threw him underneath the bus. He said we're going to make this a more run-heavy offense because Kellen Moore loved to pass the football. And what did Coach Mike do? He passed the football more with Dak Prescott than Kellen Moore did. And they had Tony Pollard on the roster. And they still had Ezekiel Elliott. But he was on the back end of his career with the Cowboys before he went to the Patriots. So Mike McCarthy did lie to Jerry Jones. He did come out and he did say that he wanted to run the football more. But they haven't done that. And when I look at the Dallas Cowboys roster right now, you have Dak Prescott, who I think is a very good quarterback. You bring in Ashton Jeanty, that'll be a very good pickup. I look at the offensive line. I think the offensive line would be okay. Tyler Guyton, there's a lot of upside there with him at the left tackle position. Tyler Smith is one of the best guards in the game. Cooper Beebe, there's a lot of upside with him at the center position. Terrence Steele, I think it's time to move off. If you can move off of Terrence Steele, move off of him. He hasn't been the same player that he once was before he tore that ACL. And I know what you're about to say. The offensive line right now doesn't look good. They have a lot of young pieces. I've seen this same movie a couple of years ago. They had a bunch of young pieces on the offensive line, and they developed those guys over time. And they had a very good offensive line, especially in pass and run blocking. And Dak Prescott would benefit a lot from a very good pass protecting offensive line and being able to run the football with a running back like Ashton Jeanty. When I look at the wide receivers, you need to bring in another wide receiver. You have Brandon Cooks. Now, Brandon Cooks is not the same guy that he was many years ago with the Patriots, with the New Orleans Saints, with the Los Angeles Rams. When I look at Brandon Cooks is so interesting. Brandon Cooks is a player, you made the trade to bring him in as a top deep threat. But Brandon Cooks hasn't been consistent. And he dealt with a knee injury this season. It's the reason why he's been traded so much in his career. And I do think that he can give you a lot of good production when he's fully healthy. He can give you over 700 receiving yards, but you need to bring someone else in. He's a one-trick pony at this stage of his career. You have Kevontae Turpin. And I will say this about Coach Mike. Even though I think he's a solid head coach, as a play caller, it is outdated. They need to find a way to get this kid the football more. Kevontae Turpin has the ability to be a top wide receiver in this league with yards after the catch and also with run after the catch. When you give him the football in space, we've seen this in the kick return game and the punt return game. He is very good. Now, that doesn't always translate over to being a wide receiver and to you being a star, but he's had a lot of good moments at the wide receiving position. They just can't get him the football enough. You have Jalen Tolbert. I think that Jalen Tolbert is solid, but you need to bring in a true number 2 wide receiver alongside CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb, he plays in the slot position. It's going to be hard to go out there and press up on CeeDee Lamb inside the slot and triple team him in certain situations like how we see with other wide receivers in this league because he plays on the inside. He can play on the outside also. So you have a couple of good players on this roster on the offensive end. It just comes down to the offensive line protection and can you run the football effectively enough with Rico long-term or with Ashton if you do draft him. When I look at the defense has been the Achilles heel in the playoffs. Even though that Dak Prescott gets a bad reputation because he had 14 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions in the playoffs, the defenses with the Cowboys haven't been good. They've been getting ran through a lot, and their defense was banged up this season. If they're firing Coach McCarthy because of this season, that is a bit unfair because Dak Prescott only played 8 games. Micah Parsons missed time. Of course, their defense is going to take a step back without their best defensive player, but when Micah Parsons was fully healthy and the defense got healthier, you saw them play better. They won a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who made the playoffs this year. They almost had the game won against the Cincinnati Bengals. I understand almost doesn't count in this league. But the player goes out there, he blocks the football on the punt return. But the Dallas Cowboys cornerback, he touches the football, the Bengals get it right back. And the Bengals go out there and they score with Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase had a hell of a day. You have very good players in the secondary. Trayvon Diggs has struggled with injuries, unfortunately, in his career. But when he's fully healthy, he's a very good player. They're going to pay Micah Parsons this offseason. He's a top edge rusher. You have to pay him. You don't have another edge rusher on this roster that can do the things that he does, especially when it comes to getting to the quarterback and stopping the run at certain times. DeMarcus Lawrence missed a good portion of the season. Marshawn Nealon got injured against the Steelers. He missed a good portion of the season. Overshown, a very good linebacker, he got injured on the back half of this season. He just had knee surgery. It's going to take him 9 months to recover from that knee surgery, but he was a very good linebacker this season. He had a beautiful pick 6 against the New York Giants, and he was a very good, consistent tackler. And it brings over to this conversation. I spoke of Kellen Moore earlier in this video. They could possibly bring him back. Mike Zimmer may be in that conversation because of how well this defense played on the back half of the season. They won that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with no Trayvon Diggs, and Trayvon Diggs played majority of this season dealing with a calf tear, and he hurt his knee. That's what did him in, and I really hope that he can stay healthy long term because he's a special cornerback, him and Deron Bland. And you brought in Eric Kendricks. That's a Mike Zimmer type of guy. He played with him for many years with the Minnesota Vikings. You do have Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith so far is a bust. He can develop long term, and I hope that's the case for the Dallas Cowboys. But right now, Mozzie Smith is not that defensive tackle that you're looking for to go out there and put a lot of pressure on the quarterback and stop the run. And this is what the Dallas Cowboys need. They need more physicality on the defensive side and on the offensive side. But I look at Jerry Jones, there's only so much a coach can do. When your owner is not supporting you, he'll come out and he'll say that he's supporting you, then he'll go cheap in free agency. Jerry Jones did have a very special free agency a couple of years ago, a very special offseason when they brought in Stephon Gilmore, when they brought in Brandon Cooks. Those were very good moves, but unfortunately, that didn't get him over the hump. And it seems like those moves were Jerry Jones at the point in time going all in. He hasn't done much in free agency since then. You brought in Eric Kendricks. You brought back Ezekiel Elliott. Eric Kendricks, solid linebacker. Ezekiel Elliott, come on, Jerry Jones. Let's just be real. He's a shell of what he used to be. Ezekiel Elliott right now, when I look at him, he doesn't need to be in the NFL anymore. And I'm trying to be nice here. He's too slow coming out of the backfield. So those moves are nostalgia acts for the fans, but you need to make moves to go out there and help this roster and stop going out there and gaslighting your fan base. I like what Stephen Jones said a couple of weeks ago. At least he was being honest. He was basically saying don't expect much this offseason. We're going to try to go out there and save money. We can't go out there. We can't pay guys because you paid Dak Prescott so much. Dak Prescott right now is the most overpaid player in this league. Even Patrick Mahomes is not getting paid that much. And look at the success that he has had with the Kansas City Chiefs. And there's a chance that they could kick some of the money back with Dak Prescott. They could save some of the money. But even when they do that, Jerry Jones still hasn't went out there and spent money in free agency. And I'm not going to even try to dig too much to the Derrick Henry situation. Derrick Henry trains in Dallas. He lives in Texas. He wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones said that he's getting paid too much. The Baltimore Ravens got him for pennies on a dollar. And look at what he just did against the Steelers. Look at what he just did against that defense. But I do trust that Jerry Jones will go out there and draft Ashton Jeanty in the first round. And hopefully that can help out this roster long term. And hopefully they can bring in the right head coach that can motivate these guys to the next level. But it's only so much a coach can do when the owner is the culture, when he is the Dallas Cowboys, because at that point in time, you're clashing with Jerry Jones. And he doesn't want someone to go out there and question his judgment. He's not like Robert Kraft. So don't expect for a guy like Bill Belichick to come in. Don't expect for Deion Sanders to come in. That's unrealistic. It's part of the reason why Sean Payton was never a head coach with the Dallas Cowboys. When I look at Jerry Jones, he wants a guy that will go out there and coach, and he wants to deal with all the media things. He wants to take all the credit for when the team wins. That's the Jerry Jones way. And if that's the Jerry Jones way moving forward, the Dallas Cowboys will never win big with Jerry Jones at the helm. And that's just it. Almost 30 years and you haven't been to an NFC Championship game with the talent that you have. And we could talk about the Dez Bryant catch against the Green Bay Packers. That was just one playoff game. They had other chances to go out there and win those games, but they have been able to do it because the culture is messed up with this organization. And if you don't believe me, look at the Houston Texans with DeMeco Ryans and CJ. CJ is a top quarterback in this league, yes, but DeMeco Ryans helped go out there and help change the culture. You need a culture setter in this league. And right now, the Cowboys don't have that. You have players going out there shooting music videos when you're getting blown out by the Detroit Lions. And I do want to bring in some games to basically say this is why Mike McCarthy got fired against the Detroit Lions. They only scored 9 points. They got ran out of their own building by the Lions. They got ran out of their own building by the New Orleans Saints in week 2. They got blown out by the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, the box score was close. The Ravens dominated that game. And yes, the Ravens have known to be a team to go out there and let leads go to the other way. Let them go to the other team. That wasn't the case for the Dallas Cowboys. The game was close on the box score. They came back in the second half, but they were never going to come back. That's how Dak Prescott gets majority of his stats in garbage time. The same against the San Francisco 49ers. Deebo Samuel's going out there. He's giving them all the problems. And the same with George Kittle. And they can't stop it. They need to change the culture. Do the players need to step up? Yes, they do. But I'm putting all of this at the blame of Jerry Jones. Because when they win, and when they win big in the regular season, he's the first guy to go up there. He's smiling and saying, look at this team that I just went and constructed. And I'll say this right now. When they lose, look at the team that you constructed, Jerry Jones. You did this. You have no one else to blame. And whenever the team doesn't meet those expectations, that's when he points the finger. And no one else is going to blame him because he is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully, better days will be ahead with Stephen Jones. but that may be a long ways away. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Dallas Cowboys moving on from Mike McCarthy, and who do you think should be the next head coach with this team? I'll also throw another name out there, Al Harris. Al Harris has been a very good defensive backs coach for many years now. He's been an assistant head coach. I think that they should really go out there and give him a fair shot with the Dallas Cowboys. Al Harris deserves to be a head coach one day. Look at the work that he has done with DaRon Bland and Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs' rookie season, he was giving up a lot of yards. But one full offseason with Al Harris, he turned this man to being one of the top cornerbacks in the league when he's fully healthy. And the same with DaRon Bland. And their safeties are also solid. And you have Jordan Lewis because of his coaching. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.